Hey viewers, so today we're doing something a little different. My son's car, he did a set of wheels and tires on it. A buddy of his gave him some Eibach Pro springs, used set. We're going to be putting them in his vehicle today, drop it down a bit. They are actually for the turbo version, and his is the Sport, which is 2.5. We'll get some coverage on this, show you a picture of the end, and I'll do a comparison because he'll have a picture he can give me that was from before the start. Another project I am working on, I shot some video on it, is a Ryobi RM480 electric 48 volt ride mower, turning into a go-kart for the neighbor. It was the neighbor's, and an electrical component went out as well as the batteries. To do the repair, it'd be like $1,400. He already replaced the mower, and I went ahead and parted it out for him, told him to make a cart out of it for him. So watch for that video coming up. Okay, so after being in the automotive industry for 35 plus years, I retired, but one of the things you definitely want to do before you do your struts is you pop the hood, or in the rear like we'll do. Before you jack it up, it's much easier to remove the top portion of the strut. Just leave one of the bolts or nuts, if it's nuts and studs, threaded on about, I'd say 3 turns. Makes it much easier when you're in the air than taking it all apart once you have it in the air. Okay, where we're currently at is we have the sway bar end link disconnected from the strut top. Unplug the ABS wire from the sensor down in here so we don't damage that. Took off the horseshoe clip for the brake line so it would come off the strut. And back on the back side here, right there is where the pinch bolt that holds the strut to the knuckle. Got those apart. Next project, which I'm not a fan of how Ford does these, or Mazda, instead of being 2 pinch bolts that just allow the strut to separate real easy, they use a single pinch bolt into the strut, and now we have to get the strut separated from the knuckle by pushing down on the knuckle, and it's a nice tight fit. That'll be fun. Okay, so this is why I like to leave one nut on the top. Once we got the knuckle and strut separated, you reach in with your hand on the bottom, hold the strut up slightly, and then you remove the nut, or bolt in this case, and then you're able to just drop the strut out.
There's the nut or the bolt.
And it's that easy. Without leaving the nut on the top, or the bolt in this case, tapping down or prying to get this off the bottom of the strut just doesn't happen because the whole strut falls down when the vehicle's jacked up, and it makes an absolute pain. Don't do it that way.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, got the strut out. What I use is a clamshell compressor. I think it's one of the better portable compressors. You just want to make sure that you're pretty equal in the middle of the spring on each side, and then got to compress it down far enough to either release the spring from the bottom of the strut, which is the bottom spring perch, or until the spring comes off the top mount, and that will let you know the spring is compressed far enough and it's safe to remove the nut on the top here. Okay, so I skipped a little video that we should have done while putting the front together. Got the front together and done. I'm going to try not to show his wheel because he doesn't want people to see his wheels yet. I probably already showed it. He had about 3.5 inches of gap. We ended up with about 1.5 inch gap. Dropped it down really well. So this is also a little bit about, will the turbo springs fit in the 2.5 Sport model of the Mazda 3. His is, what year is your Mazda?
2012.
2012 Mazda 3 Sport. And the springs we're using are the Eibach Pro kit for the turbo. And the spring rate is a little different. Overall, with the springs clear out, sitting on the ground, we measured it. It was about, what was it, 3?
3.5, and then the shorter ones.
Yeah.
In the kit.
They were the shorter springs were 3.5 inches shorter, just sitting out, not compressed. So we'll get going on the rear here, do a little video on that, and get a picture of the end result when we're done. Okay, so on the rear, it is a different setup than the front. Up front, you have a strut. The rear is a spring and shock setup. The nice part about this is we just got to get the lower control arm to swing down. And the nice part is a lot of times you have to go on the inside to get to the bottom of the shock, or I should say the top of the shock or the top of the strut. This one here has studs coming down. You can see the nuts that hold it, so we just got to release those 2 nuts. That will allow the rear suspension to drop down a bit. We will probably have to unbolt right here the swing arm or the control arm and push it down. Actually, that's how we'll do it. We'll just untake that one bolt out, push that control arm down, drop the spring out, put the new spring in, we'll be done. Okay, well, that wasn't quite as easy as I thought it was going to be, mainly because this bolt here would not come out. It was locked into the metal sleeve on the inside of the bushing. Therefore, I wasn't able to drop it at that point. Ended up having to undo the top of the shock there, use a long pry bar, clear into around this area, pry the control arm down, use the clamshell compressor, which is always fun getting in small areas like this, compress the original spring to get it out, compress a new spring to get it in, pry bar, twist, pull, turn, hammer, use a hand, 2 hands, 3 hands, my leg, my foot, and my toes. We got both springs in, and about to put the tires on, drop it down, and see where the height turned out. One thing I forgot to mention is Cameron on his car, he does have a YouTube channel as well as Instagram and Facebook, and he does video content as well. His is all about sports cars and stuff like that, so if you want to check him out, Cam Vandehay, you'll find him on all 3 of those platforms, and he's also shooting video at the same time I was doing this one. Okay, so now we know on a 2012 Mazda 3 Sport that the Mazda 3 Speed of the same year span will work, will fit, doesn't drop it irregularly at all. Front, he figures it dropped it around 2 inches. Rear dropped about 2 inches as well. Turned out quite nice. I was afraid it was going to drop one end, which would be the front, too far or not enough because of the different engine and transmission weight and added stuff being turbo. All right, well, thanks for watching.